Joining us to break it all down, James Norton, political crisis consultant and president of Play Action Strategies. You're in here usually for the 6:30 show in the evening. Good to see you here in the morning. Thanks for coming in. Let's start with Neil Gorsuch, first of all. Anything that we see right now that could be a bump on the road, or is the confirmation look like it's all systems go?
You know, it looks like it's heading in the right direction. Joe Donnelly, a senator from Indiana, came out last night, Democrat. So that's 3 Democrats that are now supporting Gorsuch. So it looks like it's going to head in the right direction. Whether or not they get to 60, I think is still TBD. But I think, you know, it looks like Mitch McConnell's probably willing to go with the nuclear option.
And then the bigger question is with this is, what does this do for the administration? What does this do for the White House? What does it do for President Trump? Because this is a win, so to speak, that he badly needs at this point.
Sure. No, it's absolutely be a huge win for President Trump to put a new Supreme Court nominee on there. It's a reason a lot of people voted for him. I think that this is, you know, we're only 8 weeks in. It seems like a lot longer, but we're only 8 weeks in. But this would be certainly a big deal. And he's got a lot of foreign leaders coming in as well this week that he's going to talk to, especially the Chinese and other issues he needs to talk about.
I want to get to that in just a minute. And the reason why I say a big win for the president right now is obviously because of what happened with health care. And this would be great to, if nothing else, get the attention off of that and for the president to say, look, here's a promise that I said I was going to make, and things are happening. So does that take away a little bit from the defeat when it came to health care?
You know, I think that healthcare, the president's already signaled, Paul Ryan's already signaled that healthcare is kind of continue on in terms of a discussion. He had golf yesterday with Rand Paul and had some healthcare discussions. So I think we're going to see healthcare come back after the recess. We've got a recess coming up for Easter here for a couple of weeks. But I think in the May, June, July timeframe, you'll kind of see that come back, as well as tax reform following what will be a pretty big victory with Neil Gorsuch getting on the court.
This White House obviously has gone about things a little different way. Doesn't really have the political background that a lot of administrations have had in the past, if any. So it may be a little bit of learn as you go. And we've seen some of that has worked, some of that hasn't. So where are we now when it comes, if we look at things like healthcare, et cetera? Doing the right thing as far as if things don't work, kind of working it the way that it can work, making it look good? I know this is your area of expertise.
Yeah, you know, I think that the American people actually have elected non-DC types in the last couple elections. Barack Obama was certainly an outsider. You could argue George W. Bush and Bill Clinton were outsiders. I think a lot of these administrations feel their way through the first 12 months, and I think we're seeing some of that now. But we're also seeing, you know, a lot of veterans that are joining this administration that have, you know, served in the past, and I think you'll see things kind of start to sort out as it, you know, the administration steps up and people can get into their positions. So I think this is all fairly normal at this point.
You mentioned the foreign leaders, and of course a big showdown coming up down in Mar-a-Lago on Thursday and Friday with the Chinese president. One big issue, if not the biggest issue to come up, Norton, and we've seen the president even tweet about that, you know, today, yesterday. Is North Korea really the #1 thing that should be focused on right now from a global standpoint?
Well, it's certainly an external threat. There's no doubt about that. I think that, you know, it's an unstable regime, and I think, you know, almost seems like every other day there's some sort of missile test or issue happening with that regime. You know, the Chinese are obviously big partners of the United States, you know, whether it's trade, you know, security, cyber's been a big issue with the Chinese in the last 2 years. So I think there's a lot on the table that President Trump can talk about, especially when it comes to working with some sort of negotiation on how to deal with, you know, North Korea and the security issues that they're representing for the United States.
So when the president tweets, we're willing to go it alone, meaning not with China's help, is that a message to China saying get on board with us, or are they really willing to go it alone without China's help?
You know, I think that we're in unique times in the fact that we always know what's on the president's mind. And I think that's one thing you could say for his Twitter feed. And I think that he is a private sector president, and he's somebody who's very good at negotiations. So I would take that as a negotiation tactic in the standpoint of, hey, look, we're willing to do this ourselves. We'd love for you to be a partner. There's obviously a lot of other issues on the table. So I see it as part of the deal going forward and kind of almost prepping the meeting, if you will, in terms of what he wants to talk about.
Some of the deal making going on within the party itself, of course, the divide in the Republican Party. And this is something obviously we knew about during the campaign. And no matter who was going to be in the White House, we saw this as it might become an issue down the road. And it is. And we saw it come to the forefront with the health care issue when it came to the Freedom Caucus. Will that continue to divide the party, or will we see the deal-making of the president be able to unite that party?
You know, I think you almost have 4 parties nowadays. You have the left wing, you have the far right wing, and you have the moderates on, you know, on both the Democrat and the Republican side. So I think, you know, for any president right now, it's just going to be a matter of coalition building and seeing how we can pull those folks together. I think, you know, again, President Trump having golf with Rand Paul yesterday was a signal to a different part of the coalition, the Republican Party, and how we can kind of pull that together. I think after the non-vote a few weeks ago, he already signaled he was willing to make some sort of with the left. So I think it'll be interesting to see his relationship with Chuck Schumer and if they can actually come together and pull a deal and move forward. Because I think at the end of the day, this was a change election, and essentially the voters voted for an outsider to do things a little different and to try to get things done. So I think he understands that he has to achieve some things here in the early days, and if it means working with Democrats, that's something he's going to have to consider.
Number one thing you're looking for this week?
Well, today's opening day, so that's obviously an important thing that I'm excited about. Baseball is something that's obviously America's pastime, so excited about that.
The president won't be throwing out the first pitch, though. We do know that. Yep. Political, what's bigger for you right now? Is it dealing with the Supreme Court issue? Is it dealing with what's happening with the Chinese visit? What are you looking for as far as what's going to grab the headlines the rest of this week?
I think the Supreme Court is probably the biggest. We've only had 8 justices now for a year. There are many cases they haven't been able to hear because of that and then send things back. I think that to kind of restore 9 justices to the court is a pretty important thing. And again, I think that was one of the reasons that President Trump was able to pull a little bit of a coalition together and win at the end was that vote. So I think that'll be a big one.
All right. James Norton, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the ball game.
Thanks.
Send it back over to Allison now, 7:36.